Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is the continuation part of the previous lecture. Previous lecture में मैंने Aristotle को discuss किया था. Part 1 comprises of the introduction series portion and part 2 comprises of the Aristotle's classification or his views on classification of state and government and his principle of golden mean, his theory of cyclic change and the Aristotle theory of best practicable state. So in this video we'll be critically evaluating Aristotle's theory of classification of state and government, and if you have missed the previous lecture I'll place the link in the description box below. So we would begin. I'll keep this video a bit short so that it's more convenient for you people to watch, right? So we start with the critical evaluation of the theory of Aristotle's classification of state. So you know that political thinkers, they generally do not consider any difference between the term state and government. So they use the terms in the same sense while classifying or presenting the classification theories. But modern authors have identified and they have some kind of different opinion on this classification, because when we study political science as a discipline, we study the concept of state. और हम जब पढ़ते हैं तो मतलब we study the modern different opinion of the authors and philosophers and thinkers, and according to them there cannot be any classification of state because as all states are equal in so much, and there are basically 4 attributes, we can call it elements of this state. So the 4 elements of the state are like population, territory, sovereignty and government. So any state who fulfill all the essential requirements, these population, territory, sovereignty and government are known to be the state. So these are all the essentials for the state, right? So Aristotle ka jo tha, he made no distinction between state and government, because in the first place he pointed out that he did not make any distinction between state and government. He identified government with the state. ठीक है, उसने सिर्फ forms of government present किया. He classified basically his classification is a classification of government rather than state, अगर हम इसको actual sense में समझें तो, because in fact states remain the entity whatever be the form of government. And then that's how like he was talking about the classification, and the theory of cyclic change was presented in a manner that changes are taking place but in government and not in state. So these are the terms which are misleading basically. So the second point of this critical evaluation is that distinction between aristocracy and oligarchy are misleading. Now aristocracy, according to the Aristotle and his theory of classification of state, the aristocracy is basically the good form of government. It is pure form of government, like which seeks the common welfare. It is kind of a virtuous form of government which works for the interest of the people. But its pivoted form is oligarchy. So according to Aristotle, he brings out a distinction between aristocracy and oligarchy. But if we talk about the modern usage of these words, these does not basically admit any difference, because if we recognize a fine distinction between aristocracy and oligarchy, it is difficult to determine that where one starts and where one ends, like from where it ends and from where it begins, because आजकल के जो terms हैं aristocracy and oligarchy, they are interchangeably used. So which the distinction which Aristotle brought, it was kind of a misleading concept. So the third point is that the term democracy is used differently in Aristotle's classification of state, because the word democracy is used in a sense of mobocracy. Aristotle calls it a rule of a mob. So his conception of citizenship does not include traders, farmers and artisans and slaves, क्योंकि Aristotle ने ऐसे कुछ institutions present ही नहीं किए थे. But modern thinkers do not regard democracy as a pivoted form of rule. Even nowadays we have seen so many successful governments which are having democratic form of government. So we cannot deny the fact that Aristotle, who says that democracy is kind of a pivoted or a deviant form of government, so he used the term democracy very differently. He disliked the real democracy where all people ruled, and he basically called it a perverted form of government. So, yeah. So the fourth criticism is that no place for mixed government. Now, according to this point, the classification does not fit in the modern political conditions and with governmental organization, which are basically mixed, of mixed nature, and they combine all the three elements of like monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. क्योंकि अभी अगर हम देखें, so we are having the best example is of British government, जिसके अंदर this combination of all the three elements can be seen. Which is the combination of monarchy, aristocracy, democracy, because monarchy is represented by the king or queen, and the House of Lords जो है उसके they represent the aristocracy, and House of Commons represents democracy. So Aristotle concepts are somewhat lagging behind, or we can call it that modern concepts differ from the ancient concepts. Another criticism is that Aristotle's classification of state is kind of is like in an exhaustive classification, because the two political thinkers, one is Seeley and the other is Leacock, they have said that Aristotle classification is basically not exhaustive, because Aristotle was a philosopher of the city states. उस टाइम ग्रीस में जो थे city states से थे, तो therefore like he could not anticipate the vastness and complexity of the modern state, because his classification is now outdated and it cannot be applied to the forms of government which are present in modern era. Okay, so his classification is unscientific because Aristotle's classification of state is unscientific because it is based on a number of person. He clearly talks about the power which is vested in the number of persons, and then he also lays too much emphasis on ethics, like if a person gets morally corrupt or if he works for the self-interest. But if we analyze it in a very deep manner, that is a matter of individual judgment. Because for example, if we say that whether a particular monarch is good or bad, it is a matter of subjective judgment. So like one may say that he is bad, yet another may say that he is good. So is the case with aristocracy, oligarchy, polity, democracy. So if a ruler is working for self-interest, even if we in the present time, if we look into the present scenario and if we analyze the current situation, जैसे हम पाकिस्तान को देख लें, so what politicians are doing, they are doing everything for their self-interest, but it is always a subjective judgment, because some people they go for other people like who are in opposition, and some people who like the leaders, and like everybody is having different opinions. So like opinions vary from person to person, and they are having contrasting views regarding the politicians of Pakistan who are ruling the country. So it is a matter of subjective judgment, and it is also a matter of individual judgment as well. Like if a person is working for self-interest, other people may find it good, but there will be some people who will find it bad. So yeah, so his classification is unscientific. Yeah, so states are classified differently. Aristotle basically obliterates the distinction between state and government. He classifies only government of his own type, like because he classifies the only governments of his own time which were prevalent in the city states in Greece, while he talked of states. So in fact, states can be classified as national states, multinational states, secular states, theocratic states, unitary states, federal states. So states के भी types हैं. जिस तरह उसने government को classify किया है, similarly states can also be classified, but he has basically used states and the government term interchangeably, although states are having some other elements and governments are having some other organs. So these are very debatable concepts, and the theories which are presented by the philosophers are always argumentative and debatable in philosophical aspect. So they are subjected to severe criticism as always, and one has to do the critical evaluation if presenting such a topic. So yeah. Still, like despite so many criticism, one must admit that Aristotle's theory of classification and theory of cyclic change and the principle of golden mean, etc., like theory of citizenship and theory of revolution and everything, they possess an undeniable importance in political philosophy. The classification of states, they were based on scientific study, and it was fundamental concept till 19th century, and his works also proved to be the cornerstone for coming philosophers and their theories. So Aristotle basically gave a base to the discipline which the world is still trying to improve. So the concepts are basically of fundamental importance, so we cannot deny this fact. So yeah, this marks the end of this lecture, and I'll be coming up with more interesting series. So thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Till then, take care, bye.